Hello, everybody. Welcome to this edition of the Armstrong Show. Thank you so much for joining us. We're so thrilled that Harvey Boulter has decided to join us all the way from England. We know it's late over there. He has this incredible story about an app, Seecrypt. Harvey, welcome to the show, and thank you for joining us.
Thank you very much.
It's such a pleasure. Explain to our audience what your app, Seecrypt, is and how it protects you from the NSA.
So essentially our app is downloadable to any iPhone or Android device, and if you both have the app on your phone, it enables you to make a highly encrypted call or do a highly encrypted message between the two devices. And so we're essentially doing two things. We're protecting your metadata, so there's no record of who you called, but we're also making sure that the voice or the message in flight from one side of the world to the other is so highly encrypted that it would take years and years to unravel it.
Wow,
so we're giving you privacy.
How did you come up with this app? And tell our audience a little about yourself.
So we actually exploit and invest in a lot of military technologies from different parts of the world. We found a technology maybe 6 or 7 years ago, and we applied it to the government market, and we sell secure communications into different governments around the world. And we took a decision about a year ago to make this type of technology available to the public on a much wider basis to protect their privacy rights. And this was largely driven by not just individuals, but businessmen traveling all around the world, realizing that they don't have any security over their communications.
How expensive is your app?
Well, here's the thing. You get to trial it for 3 months for free, and you can work your way up to, by just recommending a friend, you get another month for free, all the way up to 12 months. And then we charge you $3 a month. But the real benefit here is because it's a data call, you can actually call from one side of the world to the other side of the world, and it won't actually cost you any more, because if you're on Wi-Fi, it will be free, and if you're calling from your data package, it's already within your plan. So you could make a call from the United States to Australia to a friend there, and you could speak for an hour, and it actually wouldn't cost you anything.
Well, a recent law, a concern that law enforcement officials bring up is that terrorists could use this app as a way to avoid having their communications intercepted, and as a result, put innocent lives at risk. How do you respond?
Well, look, I think it's possible to turn many things that are around for the benefit of the population as we generally know it and respect it into mischievous weapons. And I've used before an example of a common kitchen knife. You can use it to cut your vegetables, or you could use it as an offensive weapon to stab your neighbor. This app is somewhat similar. It's there to give back people their privacy rights who use it in the proper ways. But we can't guarantee it won't fall into the wrong hands. And what we have said as a clear statement from the company is we will work with law enforcement to try and mitigate those risks of people misusing our app. But we think there's more to be gained from people having their privacy than given back to them than not having their privacy. And so to give you a small example, if I may, if you look back just last year, one of your main defense contractors, Lockheed Martin, was penetrated cyberly and had an awful lot of data taken from them. If that, in the wrong hands of a foreign government, could be used to create technology or weaponry that could be used against you. Now, what we are trying to say is we have to take measures to protect people, because it's not just military secrets, intellectual property, or trade secrets that are vulnerable here. It's everyday communications that are also vulnerable. And we're not talking about your own U.S.-based surveillance organizations, such as the NSA. We're talking about foreign governments who have interest in your private data as well. And that amalgamated together gives them real intelligence that you should be taking measures to protect yourself. And so this is an app that does that.
What is the best way, in your opinion, to maintain a proper balance between privacy and national security?
Well, look, I think
and at the same time protect your business from hackers.
Well, look, I think if you've got if you're an individual or a businessman, who is not breaking the law, and not behaving, let's say in a bad way, then you should have the right to have your communications, being private, to protect your business or your private information or your secrets. For the individuals out there who want to cause mishap in the world, there are many ways to get at those people. And obviously, law enforcement needs to find that balance. And that debate is starting to happen, in the United States now. It's the debate, I think, because of Snowden, is getting some focus where people are looking to say, look, on the one hand, we have to do surveillance, and you do, to protect the nation, but it needs to be proportionate. The other side of the debate that's really not happening at the moment is the realization that there's many foreign governments around also doing surveillance, just like the NSA is, on your population. And you're not really considering how to protect yourselves from that kind of intercept either. But it's necessary to protect yourself against, those type of intercepts, as well. And so this is not an easy debate, and there's not, if I can say, a right or a wrong answer. It's getting that balance right. And I think at the moment, the balance hasn't been exactly right, and it's causing many to think about that balance and see if it needs readjustment in light of what we've learned.
How did you develop Seecrypt? How did it all start, and what separates it from anything else that's out there?
Well, I think there are many communication security technologies out there. There are very few that deal with voice, because voice is extremely hard to encrypt in real time in order for us to have a duplex conversation. So I can say, hi, how are you? You say, I'm good. That has to work extremely hard, into two channels, and that's quite difficult to do. So we've been developing that for a long time, with the military customers, in mind, and we've essentially made, a product available to the consumer and the enterprise market as a result of that. But I think protecting people, is not an easy job. There are not very many solutions out there at the moment, and it's notable right now. Some of the US-based solutions, and so you might have followed, Silent Circle or LavaBit, were just voluntarily shut down because of pressure coming from the authorities. And so these were good solutions that provided a level of communication security, but clearly under pressure from, one assumes, US authorities, they've had to withdraw their products from the market. So one advantage we do have is we're not based in the United States. The company is actually based out of South Africa. And that's rather more neutral in the world of cyber security.
This is just really fascinating. How long has your product been on the market?
Well, actually, we launched the product on the 1st of April, and we saw a wave of demand from the international markets, and we actually didn't see very much demand out of the United States at all. And when we questioned that, people said, well, we don't need it. We don't feel as though our privacy is invaded. And then the Snowden revelation started to come, and we saw a massive wave of demand, spike in demand out of the United States. And then, of course, the NSA said, no, we don't listen to Americans, we only listen to foreigners, and the demand bubble shifted back overseas again. All in all, we've seen tremendous growth, and we have downloads now in 215 countries, with telephone calls made, messages sent from 215 countries. And our app is designed to work in very low bandwidth environments. So we work as well in Africa as we do in Manhattan.
So tell us again how your product works.
So essentially what it does at the beginning of each call, it exchanges a mathematical encryption key. And the key is truly massive, and that sets up the call. And then as we speak over the phone, our voice data is encrypted.
Oh my goodness,
with that key.
We're coming up on a break. Can you come back for a few minutes?
Sure.
Oh, good. Thank you. We'll be back. Don't go away.
Armstrong Williams returns in a moment. Where heads of state, sports, entertainment, and political celebrities meet. You're listening to Armstrong Williams.
Welcome back to our very, very distinguished guest. Harvey, it's such a pleasure having you on today. Let me get Michael Cutler, who's a terrorism expert, immigration expert. Michael, you've been listening to the conversation. What questions would you like to ask of our guest, Harvey?
Well, hi, Armstrong, and hi, Harvey. Good to join you. I agree with the need for privacy. Benjamin Franklin famously remarked that if you're willing to exchange privacy for security, then you will have neither, or security for freedom for security, then you'll have neither. But my concern is what happens if the bad guys, whether they're criminals, transnational gangsters, the terrorists have done a lot of traveling in order to attend meetings, make preparations, and so forth. Is there any vetting process that you do to at least try to determine the bona fides of those people who would subscribe to your service?
It's extremely difficult to do that type of vetting on a mass scale basis, and so we don't actually engage in that. We do ask for an email address as an anchor point, for the app, but we don't ask for anything further than that, at this time. Clearly, once you come to pay for it, you obviously have to supply some credit card details in order to fund that purchase, and that will give us a little bit more data on the individual or the corporation buying it. But we
yes
are
and no.
We're taking privacy quite seriously in order that we don't actually use people's information, and so that's the downside of taking that privacy quite seriously. That said, if it does get into the hands of bad guys, and I'm talking about bad guys who actually use telephones, of which the seriously bad guys don't tend to do that, or not since, I guess, 97, when they realized that was a bad thing to do. There are measures and there are actions that we can take in working with law enforcement to mitigate some of those risks, not least turn them off.
Yes, the reason, again, in 97 that they decided not to use phones so much, in fact, in my experience, they were using snail mail, mail drops. We saw where bin Laden was using couriers because the understanding was as soon as you go on the grid, you're firing a flare in the air. But if you're providing a means of running silent and running deep, in a manner of speaking, this might convince them that it's now safe to go back in the water, don't you think?
Well, you're semi-silent. You're certainly much more silent than you were before. But I think that there's a couple of points. If you use Seecrypt on the Verizon network, you still have a footprint on that Verizon network. And so you've still got that metadata associated with that network, even though it wouldn't be possible to tell who you called. The second thing is, like any encryption, it can be broken if you've got enough computing power and time and effort, to do it. And so somebody of extreme interest, I think, you would find that the agencies, took the time in order to,
Understood. Here's my question,
try and understand what was going on.
When lock manufacturers manufacture a lock, whether it's a bank vault or a little padlock that you put on your locker at the local health club, every lock has something known as defeat time, how long the average lock pick or locksmith would need to defeat the lock. It may run 30 seconds to 5 hours. How long would a major computer need to unencrypt, if you will, a covert message, presuming you had the best equipment? Let's say it's the U.S. government. They're on the trail of a guy running around with a nuclear device or a weapon of mass destruction. They know that this is his phone call. How much time would it take for them to decipher it?
It's still going to be several months. And
wow.
I think one of the key points here is that every time you make a new call, you get a new key. And so even if you deciphered one message, you would have to start again on the next message. But one of the points, if I could, I would just make is that seriously bad guys who are trading in that sort of league these days would very unlikely be using a phone.
Well, up until now, but if they become convinced that your program is that secure, that could change the dynamic, couldn't it?
Well, it would alter the dynamic a little bit, but it still has vulnerabilities. And the vulnerabilities, as I say, is you have to connect to the Internet in order to make a data call. And so if you are that security sensitive, then you probably wouldn't even want to be considering that type of vulnerability. You would probably want to be completely off the grid. And so what we've seen commonly before is people using phones for one-time calls, as I'm sure you're aware, and they throw the phone away. And so that's probably a more likely route that you would go. And then certainly, when you come to places like Europe, I mean, even where we sell SIM cards in Europe, you tend to be videoed on surveillance where you actually buy the SIM card, and so people might actually wait 3 months or something like that for that video to expire before they even use that SIM card in a one-drop phone.
Right.
Tell us how this works with Skype, texting, emails, and for those that are just joining us, how it works with a telephone.
So at the moment, we're available on Android phones and iPhones, and essentially at the beginning of each call, it sets up what we call public-private key encryption, and so it exchanges a mathematical encryption key. And we use two ciphers. It's a little bit technical, so AES 256, which is commonly regarded as an extremely strong cipher. We essentially do that twice to make it super strong. And you set up the call, and once the call is set up, as the voice streams off the phone, it's encrypted and decrypted at the other end using the engine and the app at the other end. When you hang up that call, those encryption keys are shredded, the metadata is erased, and when you obviously go to make another call or send another message, then you go through the same process again, and you generate a new set of keys.
So it works with the iPhone?
It works with an iPhone. You can use it on an iPad. You can actually even use it on an iPod. In a Wi-Fi environment, and then it works on 2,500 Android devices. Come the end of September, the beginning of October, we will also have it available on BlackBerry 10 and Windows Mobile.
I'm headed to Europe this week for vacation. I have the iPhone. I'm going to try it. I like these. And
one of the things you can do, and we see a lot of our customers doing this, is they come to the UK, for example, and they buy a 1 gigabyte SIM card from the shop, and they put it in their phone, and then obviously they can make calls home, and they just use that £10 or $15 worth of data during the month that they're here, and all their calls are free. After that, it's a fixed price. That's it.
So what I should do is get a SIM card once I get to Rome.
That's exactly right. From the airport, they will sell you data SIM cards, and you literally buy a data SIM card, and you put it in your phone. And the nice thing is your Seecrypt number, which is a secure number we give you, is a constant. That's the same. So people in the United States would still know what your secret number is, even though you're connecting via an Italian network or English network or whatever network you might be on.
Well, I'm going to be in Italy for the entire time.
Very nice.
Well, and so you get to save lots of money by using this.
Well, we do, and we have a lot of customers, actually corporates, who start off on the security side, looking to protect their international business, and quickly, the discussion moves to the finance director, who suddenly realizes he can save a bunch of money. And when you put the two together, saving money from international calls and security, it becomes quite compelling. Now, clearly, if you're just making a call from, New York to New York, then probably the call on your local network is near to free anyway, so it's not going to make very much difference. But once you start racking up calls from overseas, and I can tell you if you use, for instance, your Verizon phone in Italy, the charges may be quite significant, you can then start to save quite a considerable sum of money.
How would this new data SIM card affect my data plan if I'm on, say, Verizon's network normally?
Well, you just swap. So you've got your plan with your SIM card on Verizon, and it might be 4G, have as much data as you want. When you get to Italy, you literally pop out that SIM card, you put in a 1 gigabyte, for example, pay-as-you-go Roam SIM card, and then the phone connects to the Roam network, the Italian network, and you just make calls again over that data communication line on your Seecrypt app. Again, when you get back to the United States, you take out your 1 gigabyte SIM card and you put back in your Verizon one.
Michael?
I don't know that Verizon uses SIM cards. I remember when we bought the phones, they said that Verizon didn't use SIM cards, but I could be wrong. I'm not a tech guy.
Well, actually, you're correct. Verizon might be the wrong example because I think they use CDMA, so I'm not sure
That's
that they do have SIM cards
Apple.
in their phone.
Apple use SIM cards, without a doubt.
But,
well, look, I'm sorry, go ahead.
That CDMA technology is really unique to certain networks in the United States and I think South Korea. Otherwise, pretty much the rest of the world does use SIM cards.
Well, man, it has been a pleasure having you on. Oh man, it's just been a pleasure. I can't thank you enough for staying up so late in the UK to join us for this very important show. And how can they find out more about Seecrypt? Well,
thank you. And look, any of your listeners can go to the website at www.seecrypt.com, and they can find out a lot more about the product and give it a go.
Look, Michael Cutler, Harvey, thank you both so much for joining us. All the best.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Armstrong Williams returns in a moment.